Oh, hey, it's Chef Lisa here, getting my jam on in the kitchen, you know what I'm saying? Gotta have fun while I'm cooking. I am doing what I love to do, you know, I'm blessed that way. So today, welcome to Joy of the Feast. This is my platform to show you how to do things that, you know, you asked for, really. So today is gonna be really cool because we're doing some thick cut pork chops. And I'm going to show you how to do a really nice pork chop so you don't mess it up. It's something that my followers on Facebook told me they wanted to see. So, hey, I'm going to do it for you today. And it's going to be quick and easy. We're going to make perfect bone-in, thick cut pork chops. All right, so let's get started. Now, one thing I've done beforehand is I brine my pork chops, particularly with a thick cut chop. This is a really good way to make sure your pork chop does not dry out, because when you brine, which just really means you're putting it in some type of salty liquid. Now I do a salt sugar brine. So I do water, put like a cup of sugar, and you know, you have to actually do a lot of salt for pork. It takes a lot of salt to penetrate a thick cut pork chop. So I did about a tablespoon of salt in this brine. So you can do that overnight. You can do it, you know, for at least 4 hours or so. But if you could think to do it the day before, that would be ideal. So I'm going to take these out of the brine. This is how you get some juicy pork chops. And I want to pat these dry. See how thick those are? That's a good size pork chop. If you never had thick cut pork chops before, then prepare to fall in love, because there's just nothing like it. So I'm just going to dry those. Then I'm going to make just a little dusting is all we're doing. I'm going to use a little flour. If you're gluten-free, you can use gluten-free flour, almond flour to do this. Just putting some flour in there. I'm just put a little bit of salt and some pepper. Maybe a little more pepper, and just a pinch of cayenne. You can omit this if you want to, but it just is giving me a little teeny little something, little bite. And just gonna mix that up and turn on my, let's see, turn on, this is gonna be on your stove, probably like 7 or 8. You want it at medium high heat. And you really want to get a good sear to begin with, and then we can turn it down when we start basting. So you really kind of want to go medium high on your heat. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and put some canola oil in my pan so that can start heating up. And then I'm going to add, this is probably like 2 tablespoons of my favorite ingredient, butter. Have I done a recipe yet that didn't have butter? I don't know, I can't remember. I don't think so. So when I'm doing private dinner parties, one of my sous chefs and longtime people that's worked with me, Ronnie, he always says, like, have you used enough butter, Lisa? Because I'll have like 4 sticks of butter and still panic, like, I don't think I have enough butter to get through 5 courses. So he always picks on me about my butter. But I never had no complaints on how good my food tastes. So butter sometimes is the key. I want the flavor of the butter. You can certainly do it in just oil. I want the flavor of the butter though, and then, but then you have to have the oil to keep the butter from burning, especially when you're gonna sear at high heat. You can do olive oil as well if you prefer olive oil. You know, it's really not an oil that has, it has a very low smoke point, which means you can't really go really high heat on olive oil. So you can do it though, and you know, temper it with the butter, but then you'll need to really probably get your sear very quickly and then transfer it to the oven. So I'm using canola oil. Get my butter in here. Let that do what it's gonna do. And then while that's heating up, I'm gonna dredge my pork chops. All I'm doing, I've got that little flour mixture. So we're not coating it like you would if you're like gonna deep fry it, but it's just gonna help us get a good little crust on there. That's all, very lightly. You can even shake off any excess flour. So now we've brined it, so we have a really juicy pork chop on the inside. So shake that flour off. So by the way, it doesn't matter what type of flour you use. If it's self-rising flour does have a little salt in it, just be aware of that. Really all-purpose flour is probably best, but if you don't have it, don't worry about it. Use your self-rising flour, not a problem whatsoever. And again, if you need gluten-free, use the gluten-free all-purpose baking flour as well. Okay, I'm seeing some bubble action now. Hallelujah. Yes, come on. Making mama proud now. Okay, so I've got my oil nice and sizzling. I shook off that extra flour, and I'm just gonna set that in there. It's on the highest setting, and I'm gonna let it just sit for a second so it can get that crust on it. You really want to turn it like every 2 minutes at that stage. You want to let it do what it's going to do and let it get the browning that it's supposed to get. So about every 2 minutes, and we'll do that at the high sear, turn it over, get it on the other side of nice high sear, and then once we get the golden brown that we want, we're going to move it to a baking rack. Now I have a baking rack inside of my sheet pan, and that's just best to keep the crust that you created, because then any extra juices just drip down into the pan. If you don't have that, you can even just use some like sliced onions or carrots to put under. That's gonna just really add some more flavor anyway. But then it kind of acts as a rack, and that those vegetables that you set the pork chops on top of, will still allow any extra liquids to fall into the pan, so you can keep that crust on your pork chop. Now, I have to say here, if you're doing more, I'm doing 2, this fits perfectly in this pan. However, if you are, making for a family of 4, family of 6, make sure you do it in batches. What you don't want to do is crowd the pan. If you crowd your pan, you're going to have sogginess, and you're not going to get the crust and the crispiness that you want. So don't crowd the pan, because then all they're going to do is steam. And we don't want to steam the pork chops. No, we're searing the pork chops, okay? So don't crowd your pan. Give them plenty of space to breathe. They want personal space when they're in the pot. They need personal space in order to do what you want them to do. So we're gonna, and it's okay to just check them. See what your brown looks like. Almost. It's probably been like a minute so far. This one's looking excellent. I'm gonna turn it over. And depending, I may flip them twice in the pan before I take them to the oven. If you're doing a thinner cut pork chop, you may not have to move it to the oven to finish cooking. But the reason why we do that, we've got a thick cut of meat here. We're getting a sear on it on high heat. If we turn it down to low, the more you're going to have a soggy kind of texture to the outside. So we want to keep the crisp texture, but we do want to cook the pork all the way through. So when you have a thicker cut, it starts in the pan, and we finish in the oven. I already have the oven preheated to 400 degrees. And so that's going to help us keep the golden color that we get and the texture that we want on the outside, at the same time cook the pork chop all the way through. Now, we're talking about making a perfect pork chop here, right? Like, we want to take away the things that you maybe have been doing that makes it not turn out right. So one of the pieces of advice I have to give, other than everything I've said so far, don't crowd the pan, you get your nice crust on. The other thing that you really need to pay attention to is how to not overcook your pork. The best way to do that, really, to be honest, the only way, you have to invest in a meat thermometer. You can get it in your grocery store, you can get it at a nice kitchen gadget store, wherever. You can order it from Amazon.com, wherever you get one. But get you an instant read thermometer. To cook any meat, to be honest, it's really very important. I'm just lowering my heat now a little bit. To know the temperature to cook things to. That's how you don't overcook something. It's also how you don't undercook something. I think people overcook pork all the time because they're so afraid of eating raw pork. I mean, it's just, even though no one's died from trichinosis in probably 50 years, people still are just like terrified of undercooked pork. And, with good reason. However, pork only has to be cooked to 145 degrees. Okay, not 165 like chicken, 145. I'm gonna go in here now and see just where we are just from the sear, and that lets me know really about how long I have to go into the oven. Usually about 10 minutes. Oh, that's good, I'm flipping that. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. That one needs a little more time. It needs a little more time on that side. But I've already got a nice crust on this side, so that's the last time I'm going to turn it in the pan, and it's going to be ready to go in the oven. Leave that for a second. Once I flip them, I'll move them to the pan. So I'm going to test right now, just to give you an idea of where we are at this point. So we're at about 117, creeping up to 120, and we want to get to 145. So I'm going to remove these from the pan, put them on the rack, pop them in the oven so they can finish off nicely. Let's see. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. I'm going in the oven with these for about maybe 10 to 12 minutes. I'm going to check with the thermometer and we'll pull them out in just a few. All right, the pork chops are almost done. So I am going to just season some butter real quick. I'm going to get some butter in here. I'm going to smash a couple of, let's see, a couple of garlic cloves. And I'm just going to, this is going to kind of be like the icing on the cake, so to speak. This is going to be butter on the pork chop instead. And I'm going to put a little bit of thyme in here. Add the butter, my thyme, my garlic. I'm just seasoning this butter. It's another way to do kind of a flavored butter. In another video, I've shown you how to make a compound butter that you would place over a nice steak or a piece of fish. And so this is another way to just infuse flavor into butter. So put some fresh herbs, whatever you like really. I'm using thyme and garlic in this case. It's already salted butter, not unsalted butter, so no need to add anything there. So I'm gonna let that melt down. I'm gonna pull my pork chops out of the oven and see how beautiful they are. I'm gonna test the temperature. They should be at 145. Woo-wee! That is something special. Let's see. You want to make sure you tested the thickest part of your chop. Bam, right there. You can stop at like 141, 142 because of carryover cooking. Carryover cooking means after you remove it from the oven, it's still going to raise itself a few degrees in carryover cooking. So I pulled it out at 142, and so it'll rise up to 145. I've got my seasoned butter here. I'm literally just going to put that right over top. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Y'all don't know nothing about this. I'm trying to tell you. Man, look at them chops. I hope you can see this, guys. I'm about to plate it up for you. Move that out of the way. I got a little bit of rice pilaf here. And my tongs. Lord have mercy. Look at that color on that chop. Do it this way. That makes me happy. I like it. I like it like that. Bam. Woo! Y'all ain't seen nothing like this. You serve this to your man, ladies. I'm telling you. First of all, well, he's gonna go to sleep first, okay? But after he goes to sleep and he wake up, he's going to love you for this. This is the type of pork chop daddy should get, okay? Daddy should get a thick pork chop. You get them little thin breakfast chops, you know what I'm saying, to the kids. But you know, daddy deserves a big pork chop. So the thick cut is where it's at. This is, wow. It was super easy, right? We only had 10 minutes in the oven, 145 degrees. Important thing to remember, don't crowd your pan. Use your brine. Of course, the recipe will be down below in the description. And if you enjoyed this video, please like it. Feel free to share it. And then follow the links at the bottom to follow us on all of our social media. Subscribe to the channel. And then come back and watch me again. I post 2 videos a week. This is Chef Lisa with Joy of the Feast.